Ask any farmer in the Pacific about their biggest challenge, and they will say weather. Climate extremes and climate change are a reality. The Pacific region is made up of some of the most environmentally vulnerable nations in the world. The severity of these extreme weather events and natural disasters are expected to continuously increase. This will have ongoing implications on food sources. Farming is deep-rooted in the Pacific, from subsistence farming as families, villages and communities, to what are now very lucrative commercial agricultural industries. Agriculture is a significant component of exports for most countries and employs the greatest percentage of the labor force in the region. According to the 2017 Pacific Community publication, Vulnerability of Pacific Island Agriculture and Forestry to Climate Change, Pacific Island traditional crops are in general more resilient to variations of climatic conditions. However, many traditional farming practices have declined in recent decades, often in response to commercial production needs. Our traditional crops are resilient, but our farmers are slowly forgetting how to farm them. As a result, it is likely that the vulnerability of Pacific Island food and commodity production systems to climate variability has increased, which may threaten food security. The impact of climate change is expected to be far greater on global grain crops such as rice and wheat than it is on certain Pacific Island root crops like some varieties of taro. As a result, the price of imported grain is expected to increase. This has serious food security implications, but may provide market substitution opportunities for traditional crops such as taro, cassava, and breadfruit. Climate change will likely impact agriculture by amplifying the pressure of existing threats. So how can farmer organizations assist? The logical approach is to improve our capacity to address existing threats while continuing to address knowledge gaps and identify future threats. Farmer organizations are critically placed to help extend the reach of government and aid agencies to support Pacific Island farmers to adapt to climate change. Farmer organizations are in the best position to identify which communities, farmers, and farms are in need of assistance. They are also in the best position to communicate to government and aid agencies the type of assistance needed. Farmer organizations in the region already have some initiatives in place to help farmers, like agro-processing with solar power in Papua New Guinea, the Papaya Disaster Mitigation and Variety Selection Program in Fiji, cottage industry breadfruit processing, alley cropping and vetiver grass to strengthen farming sustainability. Other strategies being implemented by farmer organizations to assist farmers in the industry include the promotion of agroforestry for climate change adaptation, the promotion of traditional crops and biodiversity, improving capacities of farmers to manage pests and diseases, encouraging cover crops and soil management, and the promotion of open pollinated vegetable crops and farmer selection programs. On the 11th of October 2017, over 50 farmer leaders, partners and stakeholders from 10 Pacific Island countries gathered in Port Vila, Vanuatu. They discussed the likely impact of climate change on Pacific Island farmers and identified possible effective responses from governments, development partners, and farmer organizations. They urged Pacific governments and development partners to acknowledge the research in the Pacific Community publication Vulnerability of Pacific Island Agriculture and Forestry to Climate Change. Develop appropriate policies and programs that respond to the latest research in this publication. Support and invest in new approaches to agricultural research and extension, such as the decentralized model and partnerships with farmer organizations and the private sector. Support and invest in traditional crops and production systems, which are in general relatively resilient to variations in climatic conditions, including root crops, breadfruit, and selected timber species. Participants also committed their respective organizations at country, sub-regional, and regional levels to create awareness amongst members and partners on the vulnerability of Pacific Island Agriculture and Forestry to Climate Change publication. Develop and implement programs that respond to the latest research in this publication in the areas of soil improvement, diversified cropping systems incorporating more traditional crops and tree species, sustainable agricultural practices such as reduced chemical uses, integrated pest management and pest and disease clinics and applications, developing open pollination seed banks with support from farmers, development of support for new, environmentally sustainable technologies. Climate change is here, and the effects on Pacific agriculture cannot be ignored. While we continue to research and forecast what this means for the future of our industry, we must immediately respond to the current needs of our farmers. By enabling farmers to adapt to weather threats and climate extremes in the short and medium term, future generations of farmers will be better placed to adapt to climate change.